So for any Republicans who want to continue to try to keep battering the economy, yes, life is expensive. You can't argue that.
Welcome to this week's Wacky Moments of Leftist Extremism. This was a week where a leftist media roundtable accidentally laid a major part of their agenda right out on the table. The topic was, what should be done about Iran-backed attacks on Americans?
What would the Biden administration's problem be with going in and taking out some of their oil infrastructure and just sending the message, you know, keep going, it gets a lot worse.
Higher gas prices?
I don't care. Dead Americans?
I think, well, Richard has laid out some of the possible consequences, but anytime you're doing anything that's going to mess with oil markets, higher gas prices can be an existential threat to a presidency.
Right.
Yeah, who cares about defending our U.S. military members or our national security? It's all worth sacrificing in the name of re-electing Joe Biden. Hey, you don't like the economy? They want Joe, so get over it. Life is expensive.
So for any Republicans who want to continue to try to keep battering the economy, yes, life is expensive. You can't argue that. This is a strong economy.
Well, maybe it could be a little less expensive if someone else sat in the White House. I do remember a time not so long ago when a trip to the grocery store didn't break the bank and the border was a lot more secure.
No surprise that I will say former President Donald Trump is lying. He's lying. When was the last time he was on that border talking to people who would actually speak to him, right? So this notion of, like, what did he say? That there's an invasion? Actually, no.
Actually, $302,000 a month illegally crossing a border kind of does sound like an invasion. Or maybe Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas isn't doing his job securing the border, and perhaps that's why a House committee has moved to have him impeached.
I wonder if you feel that would meet the criteria. Well, the top Democrat on the Homeland Security Committee says the articles don't include a shred of evidence. The DHS says it's a farce.
Well, Democratic leaders say the evidence of record high border crossings isn't evidence. It's all a farce. Sure. Speaking of a farce, in order to protect and promote Joe Biden, you may remember that The View recently clamored for a third-party ticket.
Do you see yourself, and would you ever consider being the conduit to that third party? Because I don't know if the Republican Party, as we knew it, will survive this.
Whoopi Goldberg literally begged on air for Liz Cheney to make a third-party run.
So I wonder, would you ever consider, please, would you, please?
But this week, they finally realized something.
I just learned today that when Jill Stein ran and it was Trump versus Hillary, there were 3 states, Michigan, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin, where Stein's vote total exceeded Trump's margin of victory. So had she perhaps not been part of it, Hillary Clinton would have been president.
This is not the time for a third party. Now, although I'm all on board for a split ticket third party going forward after this election.
After Joe's election, then it'll be time for a third party. I see now. I'm not going to say that the hosts of The View are simple-minded, but they do believe that jokes create dictators. I mean, they can't forget President Obama making fun of Donald Trump at a 2011 Correspondents' Dinner.
We all know that at the Correspondents' Dinner, when President Obama made a joke about him,
that was the beginning of the end.
His skin is thinner than his hair. Yeah. And he got so pissed off that he had to run for president and go after poor Obama.
It's the only reason he ran, And if you believe that insane logic, you would have to be demented enough to think that Charlie Chaplin created Adolf Hitler.
Funny. They made fun of Hitler. Charlie Chaplin made fun of Hitler in 1940. By 1945, millions and millions of people were dead.
Yeah. On a different note, it's February, Black History Month. That's a time where we can all put politics aside and get together and recognize the achievements and contributions that African Americans have made to this country.
Welcome back. Black History Month starts tomorrow, and there's a new book that should be required reading called The Grift, the downward spiral of Black Republicans.
So I wanted to examine, how did Black Republicans go from Frederick Douglass to Clarence Thomas?
Yeah.
How did we get here?
Or maybe the month just marks another opportunity for the leftist media to spread hate and create racial division, which may be why so many are tuning them out. And don't think that this doesn't upset them.
On Tuesday, the LA Times announced it is laying off more than 100 people. That is over 20% of its newsroom. In the last week alone, there have been job cuts at Sports Illustrated, Time, and National Geographic. It has been even worse for local newspapers. Over 130 closed or merged in the last year. Well, our nightcap is still with me. Let's get into this. Philip, as we like to say on this show, the truth matters, but only if you hear it. Right. We're going into a general election. How important is it for people to know the truth and understand what's actually happening in our country?
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously critically important, right? I mean, this is why all of us do the work that we do. We want to make sure we understand what's happening in the world and convey it as clearly as we can to people, right?
Is that really what you do? Or do you just push the leftist agenda down people's throats and people are sick of it and they're turning to other outlets for information?
All these more media outlets, and it makes true things that are here, that are happening in the outside world here and in the Washington Post and other places, it makes that seem more false, right? Because we've so long let this sort of exist and not challenged it, we end up in the scenario where they don't view what we're doing as valuable.
Or maybe people are viewing it that way because what you're doing really isn't valuable, it's just leftist activism. Especially on MSNBC, but it does seem that one person finds MSNBC programming very valuable. Axios reporting this week that Joe Biden just loves his Morning Joe. He often calls Joe Scarborough to get his take on issues and sometimes vent about media coverage.
Actually control exactly what people think, and that is our job.
Yeah.
Well, you kind of did have to wonder who was in control there. I'm Eric Shiner from MRCTV, asking you not to roam around aimlessly. Head over to MRC.org, click on that donate button to keep videos like this one coming. Check out MRCTV.org for the latest in videos, information, and entertainment. And be sure to like, share, and subscribe to us on the platforms that you actually see us, especially Rumble, where all our content can be found uncensored. We'll be back next week with another look at the leftist media madness.